Hello, my angel baby butts, and I know I've called you that before, but I feel like angel baby butts are so holy, so just beautiful and flawless and perfect. I can't think of another name for you guys lately. So hello to the angel butts and goodbye to the sinners. A lot of you guys have been asking for more story time videos, and I love that you guys enjoy them. I think they're so fun to film. Side note, I'm actually really sick right now, and I wanted to film some videos before I got much worse. Like, I have a feeling I'm gonna get sicker, and I don't want to be out of commission and not have videos for you guys. So if I sound like a raspy elderly man, that is why. But today I'm going to be telling you, it's kind of funny after the fact. It was not funny when it happened. The time that I crashed my best friend's car. I want to make it really clear that I was not drinking when I was behind the wheel of this car. I drank and drove exactly one time. I was 16 years old, and I will tell that story in a future video. It was really dangerous, and I'm so fortunate that one of my parents was in the car with me and saw what I was doing and severely grounded me for what I did. It was the dumbest thing I ever did. Don't do it. I had a friend die from it. Just don't. I was not drunk during this situation, just so you guys know. I was not endangering anyone, or so I thought. I had nothing to drink this night. Something you may not know about me, I was incredibly sheltered growing up. My parents did not let me do jack shit. They both worked for a church, so there were a lot of things where if I screwed up, they screwed up. It was a very public image that they upheld, and so I did not do anything. I was not allowed out 99% of the time. I think that I was probably close to 13 or 14 the first time I even slept over at someone's house. My parents were really protective of me, and there were some really good things that go into being so heavily sheltered, and then there are obviously some really bad things. The bad things being that I was so socially awkward, I had a really hard time making friends, and then the good things being I didn't get into much trouble. But at the same time, every time I got out from my parents' grasp, I went crazy. The first party I had ever attended was when I was 18 years old. So it was after I had even graduated high school, and it was a going away party for a friend of ours. I actually had a crush on the guy at the time, so I absolutely had to go. I was so excited about it. And I was really good friends with this girl at the time, and I was spending the entire weekend over at her house. And she was younger than me. She was 2 years younger. And so we're hanging out at her house, watching a lot of horror movies. We weren't doing anything crazy for most of the weekend, but then we were going to this party, and I don't know this for a fact, but I feel it was probably this girl's first party too, because she went insane, and I will get into that. But at the time, I was hey, I'm not going to be drinking at this party, just so you know. I'm not going to spend the night there. I have to come back to your house and get some sleep, because at the time, I also worked for the church under my parents. It was how I made the little bit of income that I had, and it was also a major responsibility of mine. In order to live under my parents' roof, I had to work for them, which made a lot of sense, and it was kind of nice because I didn't have to go and find work elsewhere. I could really focus on school. This was the summer after high school, so I hadn't started college or anything yet. It was really nice because I didn't have to go and find another job. And so I'm talking to my friend about this, and I drove a PT Cruiser at the time. So the granny car of all granny cars. I freaking love that car, man. I loved my car, and everyone else was so incredibly embarrassed to be in my car. But I just thought it was so easy to drive. I was a granny driver from the word go, so I loved my car. But of course, my friend did not want us rolling up to this party in a PT Cruiser. So she's no, we'll take my car. And I was okay, just remember, I have to come back to your house. I have to go to bed, and I have to be at work in the morning. Cool, whatever. So she drove a Range Rover at the time, significantly larger than my PT Cruiser. And this will be important later. We go to this party, and she was so drunk. She played 5 rounds of beer pong and drank 6 beers. Other than that, I mean, by the time that we got back to her house, she was vomiting forever. And I was so mad when it happened, because here I am off to the side, I'm just talking to people and hanging out at this party, having fun, and my friend is so drunk. And I was really frustrated with her, because it was how am I even gonna get back to her house? Now, her house was not very far away. It was maybe 2 miles away from this party. But at the same time, I can't stay there. I'm not gonna trust anyone to wake up in the morning. In fact, at this point, it was getting close to 2 in the morning. I had to wake up in 4 hours in order to even get to church, because it was from my friend's house down to my parents' house, a 45-minute drive, because she lived in the middle of nowhere and I lived in the middle of nowhere, just on the opposite side of town. And so it was really, I was just so mad, because she had gotten drunk when she promised she wouldn't. And so I'm bitchy this whole party, of course. Everything's starting to die down. People are starting to go home. And I'm how am I gonna get back to her house? A friend of mine was like, just call her parents. Like, they're 2 miles away. They're probably up. Her parents are really, really chill people. Like, I really liked them a lot. And I felt like they would kind of understand my responsibilities. You know what I'm saying? Like, they knew I had a job, whatever. I called them on my cell phone. You used to call me on my... And it rings like twice, and my friend freaks out, runs over to me. I didn't have a flip phone anymore. I had one of it, and it was like the days of the iPhone, because after this, I wound up getting an iPhone because my parents were really mad they couldn't get in touch with me, and I lied and said there was something wrong with my phone. But at the time, I think it was one of those where like the front was like a normal phone, and then you could flip it up, and down here was like a keyboard. So my friend like freaks out. She grabs my phone, like she smacks it across the room, and she's just like, no, do not call my parents. Do not call my parents. Like, I can drive. And I'm like, there's no way in hell I am getting behind the wheel of a car with you like driving. And I'm telling her, you should have let me drive. Like, you knew I had to go to work in the morning. At the end of the day, she was younger. So like, she's still in high school. Like, she's not thinking about work. And I've just gotten out of high school. And I am in that mindset officially like of, okay, I have a job. I've had one for a few months. Like, I cannot miss work. My parents will be livid. Like, not only that, they would be so inconvenienced because I didn't show up to do my work. Well, when she literally like tossed my phone across the room, her dad had answered the phone and was still on the line, so he overheard all of what was said. And she's like really mad at me. She doesn't want her parents to come and get us. So I go over to get my phone, and he's still on the phone, and I pick it up and I'm like, hello? And he said, okay, so where are you? And I told him we were at this party. Have you been drinking? And I said, no. And he said, okay, well, maybe you should just drive her car back to our house. And I was like, that is not a good idea. Straight up, I told him that's not a good idea. I only drive a PT Cruiser. I'm not comfortable getting behind the wheel of this girl's car. He kept saying, don't worry about it. You will be fine. If anything happens with the car, it's fully insured, but I trust you. Like, I think that I come across as a very like capable and trustworthy person to parents. Like, dad completely overestimated me in this situation, but I could not drive that car. You know, it's huge. I'm not used to it. I'm terrified. At this point, I have to leave for work in 3.5 hours. I'm so tired. And I'm just like, okay, fine. Like, I will take her car back and I will drive us back to her house so I can get a little bit of sleep, blah, 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 blah. I get her into the car. She's kind of like coaching me on what to do, because again, it's not like a typical car that I drive. It's huge. Like, it's this big Range Rover, and she's kind of helping me out. And off the bat, like, we're parallel parked. This hairbrush is her car, right? Here is a ditch right over here, and we're parallel parked along the ditch. And let's kind of bring the ditch down, because it was not a normal ditch, my friends. It was extremely deep. And if you do not already know, Georgia red clay is like the worst thing to be parked on. And granted, her car is much bigger than mine. It has like all-wheel drive. I do not know this because my PT Cruiser, whenever I'm stuck in mud, is extremely difficult. So I'm kind of estimating how much gas I'm gonna need to use. I back up and I eventually get out of the parallel park position with a lot of coaching, a lot of like, I already have horrible anxiety and I get panic attacks so badly, and I'm just like, this is going to be such a mess. But I eventually get it backed out and I'm feeling okay. And so I need to pull forward a little bit so that I can essentially like crank the car more to keep backing out at this parallel park position. When I go forward, I'm overestimating for the Georgia red clay, right? Put my foot down on the gas and immediately get into the ditch. It wasn't that hard. Like, the airbags did not deploy or anything, which I find really surprising, because the next day looking at her car, like, it was really messed up from getting in this ditch, because this was not like, it wasn't like I gunned her car into a ditch and it was all fine and fancy, like I kind of screwed up the front bumper. No, like, this was really bad. I never knew the total damage on the car, but it was a little bit effed up. And her head went forward and hit the dash really hard. And she actually wound up like bleeding from the mouth from it. I went straight into a panic attack, just bawling, sobbing, hyperventilating. Like, I was so scared. And like, I thought that I had really hurt her. So I'm like trying to grab her face, like making sure like if she could breathe, like whatever. This girl's drunk. She just hit her head. She doesn't want me touching her. Like, I'm freaking out. And so people are running up to the car, you know, whatever. And actually someone who was drunk at that party wound up pulling her car out of the ditch. At this point, I'm beside myself. I don't even know what's happening. I didn't know this until later, but someone who was drunk at the party wound up backing her car out of the ditch and getting it ready for me to drive. And like, that thought alone scares me so bad, because she was still in the car. And this person was so drunk. And like, obviously I'm sober and I couldn't drive as well as he could drunk, but like still the whole thing like scares me so bad. Luckily we were both wearing our seatbelts because I always think of how like hard she jerked forward, and it really scares me to think about because it's like, I really worry she would have like flown out of her seat. Like the force was that bad. And she doesn't want me to tell her parents that I put the car in a ditch because they're gonna be so mad at her. Like, so we get back to her house, I'm literally doing like 20 on the roads, and I'm so scared. I'm so upset. Like this entire night has just been so difficult for me, and I have to wake up in like 3 hours to go to work. Get back to her house, and in the morning when the day breaks, like basically she goes to her room. She's completely sick. Hi, Essie. So she winds up being really sick and goes to her room, and I probably like in the moment I was like, she doesn't want me anywhere near her. Like she wants to vomit in peace. So I wound up like sleeping on the couch that night. In the morning, in the daylight, her parents were outside inspecting the car, and they asked if I had like hurt the car. Yes, like totally put the car in a ditch. Super sorry about it. And I'm telling them like, I'm bawling because I'm just like, how am I gonna pay for the damage to this car? Like, I don't even know what to do. And of course they're telling me like it's not my fault, you know? And they're the ones who told me to drive the car. So basically they weren't mad at me or whatever. They were not gonna ask me to pay for the damage done to the car because of the entire situation, you know? But it was really awkward after that. I was really mad at my friend for getting drunk when she said, you know, she was gonna drive me back that night. So we weren't friends after that. And a lot of things about that night could have gone so much worse than they did. I'm so lucky. We are both so lucky. Everyone involved was so fortunate. The dude who got behind the car, the wheel of the car while he was drunk, like, we are all so freaking lucky, and like looking back on it, we were such dipshits, and like I'm just so glad that nothing worse happened. By the way, I did make it for work the next day on time. Never told my parents until about a year ago that I ever put her car in a ditch, and they were horrified that I had never told them. I saw her dad really recently when I went home to Georgia and like just said hi and stuff, and he didn't mention it. That was the last time I ever saw them, was when right after I literally crashed their daughter's car, and then I haven't talked to her in God knows how long. So there's my story. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, give me a thumbs up. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.